Hey everybody. So I hope I'm not going to move this too much, but a lot of times when I'm working out of my elliptical machine, Father would just start to speak to me. When you're running in place for a while, you got nothing to do except just be on this thing. In stillness, Father will speak. And I felt the inclination to do this a couple times. And I didn't do it because, for one thing, I don't ever want to seem like I'm some influencer, like on social media. You know, people, this world is so very vain right now. Everybody is so consumed and obsessed with themselves. It's all about them, their body, being something special, everybody wants to feel like there's someone. And this world is very vain, very vain. I know vanity. One of my greatest battles is vanity. And I'll admit that to anybody. If you can't admit you have a problem, then you're no closer to getting past it. But I want to tell you guys something. This is very important. Such as times when Father speaks to me, has a message, I'm on this thing. I'm not trying to, act all impressive or anything like that. It's actually why I'm keeping my phone up. I'm intentionally trying to not pan it down low because I don't want people to think, oh, this dude's just trying to have us look at his body. So I'm keeping it on my face. So I wanted to clarify that right now, because right now today, especially, there is a lot of people trying to influence everyone, trying to be vain, egotistical, and show themselves something special, something for people to look at and say, oh, look at that person. So I want to preface that. I'm doing this because Father has a message. And I know, obviously on this thing I'll be a little breathy. You might hear this thing, but this is important. Father wants me to tell you something. And it's according to the messages, the videos that I've released on Torah, the last two videos, the one on slavery, and then the one on, I'm trying to keep the glare of the light out behind me. Hopefully it doesn't bother you guys. If it does, just don't look right at the video then. In the last two videos, I know I've spoken about some pretty contentious things. Mainly the differences in the division between people. And I want this to be very clearly known. I've said it before, I'll say it again. For the few people that watch these videos, I know it's not many. It's like I said before, and this is not me defending myself, because I have no need to defend myself to anyone. The words I speak is what Father wants me to say. But as His servant, His representative, it is my duty. If a person cannot be careful with their words and season their words with grace and salt, and be wise with their words, it's like Yaakov. It's like James said about how it is so important that a perfect man, learns how to bridle his tongue. So as someone who teaches for Father, my job is to tell you guys, to make sure, not just I'm telling you the truth, telling you exactly what it is Father puts in my heart, but it's also my job to make sure I explain things as best as I can. It's why that I try to be very careful how I say things. I don't ever want to come across condescending or come across like I'm talking down to you, or to say anything I say with a mean spirit, like I'm full of hate, because the world is full of that. There's all kinds, like I said, influencers, people making videos on social media, TikTok, Instagram, everything else. People are just mean and nasty. Every word they say. It's my job as representative of the Most High Elohim to make sure my words always bear me in His eyes as being innocent of fault or blame, being nasty or mean-spirited. So I want to say this. It's very important. I'm not racist. I have friends, people I care about very much, as I've said before, who are of other races, other nationalities. The reason Father's had me hit home in the last two videos about why there is a difference in how people were made and cultures and demographics and what people are, stations, abilities people have. The reason fathers had me drive this home is because the modern world has made such a concerted effort on trying to tell people and teach people that divisions, cultural, unique traits, separations are evil. We have been taught for years all that stuff is bad for no reason. We're not given a reason. We're not told why that stuff's bad. We're just told it is. We're not given a reason. The reason why fathers have me in the last two videos talk about hard matters like slavery, proper slavery, slavery done with respect, with human compassion, not like throwing somebody down on the ground and whipping the flesh off their bones or treating them like a dog. Or like last video, the big one we talked about, interracial relationships. The reason why fathers had me talk about what I have is because there's nothing wrong with natural order, with how Father made things. Everything has got an order. Human beings have an order. Our governments, our societies, everything has a structure. Everything. That's not evil. If you have a bug terrarium or you have a, what do they call them for reptiles? You have your own little ecosystem set up for fish, for reptiles. There's a certain way that we have to have things set up for the animals we care for. Otherwise, they'll die. It's a natural order. The world around us is the same. What the worm, what's Satan, whatever you want to call it, the betrayer, the deceiver, what it wanted to do, its attack is multi-pronged. If it can't steal glory from Father, it wants to deceive. It wants to try to warp and distort what He's made and what He's created. Because if you can destroy or distort what the Creator has done, you get a semblance of victory from it, a feeling of victory. Because if you're an artist, as a human, if you create things and make things, what is one thing you feel when you're done? You feel proud of it. You're proud of how you made things. Father's the same. He made all things. Everything has got a way of creation. So if you're out here and it can make an abomination of how Father has made the world to be, mess with the rules of the world, and mainly humans, who He's made in His own reflection. What happens is now the worm has taken Father's natural, beautiful way He's created, and it has made an abomination of it. And it's exactly what it wants. Everything about the world we see around us has all got a natural way. Things are supposed to be, from animals, plants. For all of our intelligence, humans, we have a very natural, carnal side. How we're made. Survival, pleasure, self-sustainability. We have carnal instincts like animals do. We're just sentient where they're not. There's nothing wrong with looking at the practical order of things. Looking at something through common sense lens and saying, this is the way things are supposed to be. The worm has caused people today in this world, especially academics, especially scientists, especially people who feel like they all need to have a cause to battle for. Everybody wants a battle, a war, something to fight for. The worm has made people look at things, and instead of seeing 2 + 2 on the board simply equals 4, now it's got people so jacked in their minds where now it uses our intelligence against us, where we can't look at something simple anymore and come to a simple conclusion. Now, We look at everything and we say, oh, 2 plus 2, that must equal 247 because through some weird convoluted mathematical process, the rules have changed. It's made it to where with any person intelligent and genius, people on a genius level are bad for this. They'll look at everything, even when the answer is simple, and they overcomplicate it. That's what the worm wants us to do. That's what it has done to us. It's taken survival. It's taken the natural world. It's taken things that are very natural about people, and it's corrupted it. There's nothing wrong with looking at a white guy, white person, saying, hey, white people have got these particular psychological predispositions. Hey, look, I'm a white dude. I'll say right out the bat, one thing my race is bad for is greed. We love, having. Europeans, Americans, look at the history. European imperial powers. Look at America. Material. We want, we crave. We crave power. White people normally, they crave power. They want to have control. Colonization, subjugation. I'm not saying this in a derogatory fashion against white people. I'm white, but it's the truth. White people have a strong predisposition toward those things, toward rebellion. White people are inherently rebellious. Is what it is. There's nothing wrong with saying the same thing that racial groups have things, psychologically speaking, they're more inclined for. If one race has a more servile or serving mentality than another, that's not wrong to say. It's nature. It doesn't make them any less. It doesn't make them a lower or better human than a white person or vice versa. Accepting that there are facts, racial facts about every group, white people included, white, Oriental, black, Hispanic, every group, to say there's such a thing as groupings, racial psychological traits. It's not racist. What is racist and what is wrong is if you say, well, tell you one thing, man, all white people, they're just untrustworthy conquerors, man. You can't trust them. They'll put you in chains and subjugate you. You can't trust. I got a white neighbor, man. I bet he's just waiting to screw me over. That's racist. Just because that person is white doesn't mean they're going to screw you over. Or to say, hey, that Hispanic dude, man, I bet he's a drunk. Man, Hispanic people love to drink. That'd be racist. To call somebody a nasty name or to be mean to them, to be mean, to say something nasty, to treat them bad, that is racist. To make cultural observations is not racist. And that's what the world, society has taught us. And it's wrong. That's not racist. To say that human beings, and I know concerning the biology of human beings, when you're talking about the races, I know there's a long evolutionary process of how Father made humans to evolve in each of their groups. And no, I'm not talking from apes. I'm talking all the way going back to Adam, Hava, or Eve, his wife, and then the primitive peoples that their children bred with. That's a whole other matter entirely. We'll get into that another time. I'm talking about that. Yes, I know there's a long evolutionary process, scientifically speaking, about the different races, but to say, just like with an animal, a dog or a cat, even animals from the same species, take a lion and a tiger from the same feline species, and to say that they're meant to breed in their own category and not to interbreed because their offspring will be sterile or not as healthy. To say that is not bad. To say to make the cultural statement, an observation. There's a Caucasian man, Caucasian woman, Oriental man, Oriental woman. Whether they're Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, they all belong to that same Oriental category. To say African people, black people, there's a black man, there's a black woman. To make the common sense observation, well, I believe there's an Almighty. I believe in Yah Elohim. Now, if you don't believe in an Almighty and you're secular, none of this matters. But if you say, yeah, I believe in an Almighty Creator, of course I do. Okay. Well, common sense-wise, if interrelations were okay, then why is there a male and a female of every group? I have read a lot about, people who are Christian, who are very pro-interracial in terms of marriages, relationships, and those who were against. And what's funny is, every time I've ever read or I've ever heard the argument either side makes, they're never free of bias. They're all the secular societal argument over racism or non-racism always bleeds into the Christian arguments. But I've heard the pro-interracial Christian groups say, they'll say Jesus, Yahshua, what would I say? They'll say Jesus, he came around and he taught love for all. We're to love one another, and therefore interracial relationships is a perfect example of that. And Christians who say that interracial relationships are wrong, they're mean-spirited, and they're just misinterpreting Scripture. And every argument I've heard from both sides, it always comes down to the cultural influence of today. All of it. They're not truly free of bias. It's not coming from this just plain common sense, just real world perspective. It's colored. The fact of the matter is, yes, all humans were made in the image of Yah Elohim. And if you choose him and you become his child, he loves you. Now, if you're secular, you're a pagan, you don't want to know him, in Father's eyes, you're as good as dead. That's just a fact, whether you like to hear that or not. And he knows everyone who's ever going to know him. If you don't belong to him, then you're already dead. If you're his child, yes, he values and he loves all people who are his. But loving someone and recognizing that each person or each group or each race has different qualities, different traits, different abilities, different strengths, that's not a lack of love. That's just how Father made, naturally speaking, the people of that group to exist. To say people of individual races should not interbreed or intermarry. Instead of taking a knee-jerk reaction when someone says that and just saying, oh, that's racist. Instead, if you just take a step back and say, you know what? Just because people of different races should not romantically intermingle and produce children doesn't take away the ability for people of other races to love one another, to be good to one another. There's a far cry and a great difference between loving and respecting someone of another race or another culture, and romantically loving them and producing children with them, continuing on the human race. That's very different. For instance, you might love your best friend. I have a friend I grew up with from childhood. We grew up from the time we were 10. That doesn't mean I love her romantically. Doesn't mean I want to take her as wife. Just because we're told to love someone, that love does not transcend automatically or out of necessity into romantic love. And that's what people get wrapped up and confused over. People say love is love, love is love. No, love is not love. True love is being able to care about and show compassion to others as Father commands us to. because we have been shown grace. We who are bought by the blood of the renewed covenant are meant to show that same mercy and grace and compassion to others. Father showed us. But that is not translated into now we have to go against the natural order, go against how Father naturally made man to be and to breed. And loving someone means, hey, I love you. I want to take you to bed now. It doesn't translate to that. There's a difference. People don't understand. They take it too far. For me to say, I have black friends, Oriental friends, Hispanic friends, and I love them. I care about them. That doesn't translate in meaning that I have to take a female of one of those racial groups and I have to love her romantically and want to take her to bed. Doesn't mean that at all. And to say I still don't love those people just because I don't have a romantic tie or a romantic desire, that means nothing. That means nothing. Let me give you a good example, okay? For instance, biology. You can take, say, a cat or a dog. Your cat or your dog, say you get them when they're young and they grow up together. They may tolerate one another. They may even get close because you brought them in together from the time they were little. They knew no better. But just because they get along, or they may lay with one another, doesn't mean they're going to be attracted to one another. Doesn't mean they're going to want to reproduce together, or even try to as a dog or a cat. There is absolutely nothing that is wrong or racist about making simple cultural observations about how Father made the world and made the natural order. And it doesn't make you any less understanding or loving or compassionate. It's realizing Yah Elohim hasn't ordered all things, and you respect his order. You know, when we start saying, I think that even though I can see this is natural, the natural way of things, you know what? I want to go ahead and I want to go against that natural order because my heart tells me that it's the right thing to do. When we start stepping outside of Father's natural order, because we tell ourselves, well, I mean, but my heart's telling me, but I love. If we start allowing ourselves to step outside of Father's natural order, because we are talking ourselves into thinking it's okay. And that's what every person does when they do something they shouldn't do. They talk themselves into somehow thinking it's okay. Do you think that for the most part, do you think that any or most criminals that commit crimes do so just because they're evil? A lot of people that commit crimes do so because they talk themselves into thinking it's okay. That's a fact. So I'm trying to get out of the glare of the light now that I'm off that thing. It's a fact. Wait, that's good. There you go. I'll try to keep it here at this level. It's the same thing if we try to go against Father's natural order. Trying to question his natural architecture and letting our heart lead us and say, well, that's okay, and making up excuses, that is how things came to pass. Like, for instance, same-sex marriage, homosexuality taking off like it has. People started, especially Christians, started making exceptions for it and saying, yeah, I mean, there's a man and there's a woman, but, I mean, but they really love one another. This man and this man, they really love one another. This woman, they really love one another. So, I mean, if there's really love there, it can't be bad. What's ironic is, the same people that make the argument and say same-sex marriage is okay because of love and feelings, those are the same kind of people that will either excuse or say it's okay for things like, for instance, interracial marriage. Now, yes, I know in one side it's same gender and the other is just interracial, but it's the same kind of argument. It's realizing there is a natural order. There is a male and there's a female. If there is a male and a female human, a man and a woman, obviously they're the ones meant to breed, not female, female, or man, man. Obviously, if there's a man and a female, male and female, that's the natural order. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist that way. But for people that stop thinking practically and logically and say, well, but this same-sex couple, but they really love one another. When you start letting your heart and your feelings, your human, flawed sense of morality get in the way and say, well, but, and you start making exceptions, then you lose everything about what is, on a common sense, logical, natural level, what is right and wrong. When you can look at human beings and say there's a black man, white man, white woman, oriental man, oriental woman, you can see that. But yet you tell yourself, well, but it's okay if they want to interbreed, it's okay. Let me ask you this question. Where then does it stop? For instance, a sick person in the head can look at a little child. A molester can look at a child and say they really love that child, and that's how they express themselves. It's obviously natural for an adult not to do that to a child, obviously. But by that same logical argument to say, I know it's natural for that not to happen, but well, he or she really loved that child. When we start making excuses for the natural order because we let our human, flawed logical processes get in the way, we get in trouble. True love and respect for Yah Elohim is being able to accept that He has a natural order, He has law, He has a way He constructed things in His architecture, and that we are to respect that. We are to abide by it. If we truly love Him, we prove we love Him by obeying His commands, obeying His laws, obeying His natural order. Otherwise, it's no different than if you let somebody into your home and they claim they love you, but yet they don't respect any of your rules or any of your laws. They take advantage of you. They break your stuff. Their supposed love for you is proven a lie because they're not willing to respect you and abide by the things that you lay down to them or your laws and your rules. It's like in the book of the Sefer HaYovelim, which is Hebrew for the book of Jubilee. In the book of Jubilee, or Jubilees, as you would know it more commonly, one thing is said very clearly, and that was that after the flood, Noach's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, that they divided the world according to each of the sons. And there was a command Father gave them. It was an oath they took, and it was a command Father held them to, that throughout their time, that none of the three sons and their family groups were to try to invade or take or dwell in or in the midst of their brethren's possessions. The descendants of Japheth were meant to abide and exist in their own allotment. The same thing with Ham and Japheth. They weren't to try to take what one another had. They weren't to try to dwell in the other's possession. They were to remain separate. And that if they did not, that they would be brought upon them a curse and a judgment that would be upon them until the great final judgment at the very end. If that is not yet again more biblical proof in separation and division, culturally, ethnically, in groups of how Father made people, nothing is. So what I want to drive home again, and this is important, you hear me say things like this, and it's not because I'm trying to be some Christian white nationalist. I'm not. Or because I'm trying to espouse, racial superiority, white power, or because I hate people of other races, or because I'm just some contentious influencer who's trying to stir the pot. It's because I'm trying to point out a very simple, logical point of view that people today have complicated. Because everybody today has to overanalyze and overexamine every little thing until eventually we overanalyze everything to such a point where nothing is simple anymore. Nothing is common sense anymore. Now everything can be broken down and subdivided and cross-examined 100 different ways, even if it really doesn't make any sense. Accepting the simple truth that there is an architecture in this world, a way Father made things. That's not bad and it's not racist, and it doesn't disqualify us or make it less possible for us to love one another. Not interracially marrying does not mean that we're not loving, that we're not doing compassionate, good things for one another. There's a vast difference between loving and showing respect and compassion for your fellow man and then romantically loving and taking someone to bed. There's a big difference there. Yahshua never taught, and people they literally put words in his mouth and they say, well, Yahshua taught love, so therefore interracial marriage is totally okay, and that's the greatest example of it. Yahshua never once said that the way we show that love of Father is now go out and to show this, the greatest extent of the Father's love is to bed members of this group or that group to show that your love and your acceptance is of the Father's. All Yahshua said is that we are to love and show compassion, that we are to do good for and to others. Romance, marriage, sex, none of that was part of it. None of it. And the same people who defend and try to say that those who argue against interracial marriage are taking Yahshua's words out of context. Those same people who try to say that interracial marriage is the greatest show of Yahshua's teachings, they're also putting words in Yahshua's mouth because he never said anything about any of that. Nowhere. To love and to show compassion for all people, everyone around you, whether they're a child of Yah or they're not, is not contingent on who we marry, who we sleep with, who we create children with. In any way, shape, or form. Has nothing to do with it. You can show Father's love and his compassion. You can be a good child of Yah and still accept the fact there are boundaries in this life. And that does not make you any less of a child of Yah. It makes you more a child of Yah because you show you have respect for his order. There's nothing wrong with that. But I needed to clarify to you guys. And yeah, I know there are people that are going to watch this video or watch the ones I've done, and they're just going to say I'm racist regardless because their hearts and their minds are closed. And that's okay. They can think what they wish. But it was my job as Father's representative to clarify to you, beyond any shadow of a reasonable doubt, what I'm trying to say. To be a child of Yah means that we are to be obedient to him. We are to listen to him. We are to abide by his laws and his ways and his natural order. That is how we prove we are his, as we abide by what he has set forth. That is what makes us a good child and a good servant. And here's another thing. I never said this before. But about the thing about certain races being more servile-minded, to be servants or slaves over others, I hate to tell you this, newsflash, but everybody in this whole entire world, no matter who you are, white, black, oriental, I don't care, especially if you're a child of Yah, I don't care who you are, man, woman, what ethnicity, every single person in this world, every child of Yah, we are slaves to him. We are his slaves. We are his servants. And there's really no distinction between a servant and a slave. That's just splitting hairs. A servant and a slave is, when you break it down, it's basically the same general thing. You are in servitude. You are serving another being. You are serving another entity, human or otherwise. If you're serving, you're a servant, you're still doing service. You're a slave, you're doing service. Don't split hairs over it. We are all slaves. I am a slave. I am in deep bondage. I am in deep chains to him. I am his slave. I am his servant. I am his slave. I am a slave of Yah Elohim. And I'm proud to say I'm a slave. I don't want to be free. I want to be his slave. He's a good master. Likewise, for everybody in this world, every child of Yah is a slave. So therefore, to say there are certain people and races that have a mind that's geared more toward servile service than others, that's not an insult, because we're all slaves. Start thinking with your own mind. Start thinking practically. Look at things. Look at the world around you. Look at reality and call it for what it is. Stop thinking with a knee-jerk reaction to everything. The first time you hear something that goes against what society's taught you, what schools, what social media, what your friends, what everybody else is always parroting for no reason, instead of listening and staying in that vacuum bubble, when somebody says something that doesn't fit in that, instead of having a knee-jerk reaction and immediately saying, racist, stop and think for yourself and say, but is it really? Is this really racist? Or is it just reality? Is it just the natural order? Is it just how people are? Is it just how things are made? Truly being a child of Yah means respecting his natural order, respecting his law, respecting his boundaries, respecting his architecture. Not making our own and not saying that we know better and trying to establish our own system of order. It's respecting what he has already established and made. And accepting those realities does not make us racist, and it does not make us cruel. And it doesn't mean that we're violating Yahshua's teachings by not loving. It means we are being ourselves good slaves, good servants, good children by abiding by the order that our master set forth. And because people don't know how to do that anymore, and because people started questioning the architecture of the master, things are just getting farther and farther out of control. And now everything in the whole wide world is up for question. Nothing is solid anymore. Nothing is a sheer fact anymore. Now everybody's questioning everything, and everybody is now saying practically everything is up for grabs. Everything is up for reinterpretation, all the way up to and including something as simple and as practical and as primitive and primal as nature, as gender. That is where it goes when we start questioning the architecture of the master. It is not to be questioned, because we didn't make it, he did. And that's all I got to say. Father has an order. We need to abide by it. And abiding by it does not make us racist. It makes us obedient. And that's it.